Hey, so today is going to be my fish canning day, and I just wanted to show you my setup. So this is my prep station right here. I've got my cutting board, and this is all the fish that I'm going to can. So I've got 2 nice sized fillets of fresh salmon, and I've got a bag of walleye that's been in the freezer for a little while, and I want to get it out of the freezer, so I'm going to put it into cans. I've got my pressure canner here. It's a big guy. Whenever you're doing meat, low acid, low sugar foods, you have to pressure can it. You can't do the water bath method. That's not safe to eat. I've got my container of rings and general canning tools. All of my jars. I always have a pile of towels and rags. And these towels and rags, I don't care about. I mean, they can get totally trashed, and I'll just throw them in the wash. You've got your lids and your rings and your jars that are prepping. So I'm doing 10 pint-sized jars. That's what I'm guessing for the amount of fish that I have. Whenever I guesstimate, I always guess over, because I mean, when you're at the point where you're starting to stuff hot jars, you always want to have too many, not too few. So right now I've got them on, we're just starting to roll on high heat with some water in the bottom. And so right now I'm just sterilizing the jars and heating them up so that heating, or that sealing element inside the ring, can start to heat up. So the thing about lids is that you need to use a new lid every single time you can. So you buy new lids just in a container like this. So every time you reuse your jars and your rings, you need to add a brand new lid to it. Finally, most importantly, I've got my recipe. So this is a pamphlet, or a recipe, that I got from the University of Alaska Fairbanks Cooperative Extension Office, called Canning the Fish Catch. And this is good for pretty much all fish. I will put a link in the description below to their website so that you can find yourself a copy of this, because it is just amazing. It goes through handling the catch, like in the field, how you should prepare the fish, like removing bones and skins for certain kind of fish. And then it gets into like how to pack your jars, recommended processing time and pressure for your jar sizes. All of this was done by the University of Alaska Fairbanks. So this is a very, very trustworthy source when you're canning fish and meat and other things that have potential for botulism when it's not correctly canned, is that you want to find a reputable source. And now I'm going to get started chopping up my fish. I'm about partway through prepping all the fish. My jars have just started boiling, so that's good. Jars are getting sanitized, and I'm dicing up the walleye still. And as I'm running the knife through these fillets, I can feel bones. Like, I haven't deboned these yet. But part of the beauty of pressure canning fish with small bones is that pressure canning completely takes care of all these bones. So I can feel the bone lines in this fillet. And same with the salmon. I have not removed the bones from these salmon fillets. But during the pressure canning process, the pressure canner actually just totally dissolves those bones, making the fish healthier for you, because you're eating all of that calcium that's inside the bones that you'd normally be picking out and throwing away. If it's a fish like salmon or walleye, where the bones are just really small and really obnoxious to take out, you don't have to take them out when you're pressure canning it. It's pretty amazing, actually. So yeah, just chop up all your fish. Don't worry about the bones. The pressure canner will take care of that. All the fish has been diced, walleye on the left, salmon on the right, and now I'm moving my hot jars from the sanitizing pot over and lining them up where I will fill them. So this is a really nice tool to have. It's a pretty standard canning tool, so you don't have to touch any of the hot jars yourself. These are very, very hot jars. So I'm just going to line them all up in a row. All my hot jars are lined up, and I'm going to start packing them, which just involves grabbing a handful of fish and putting it in. Now this recipe specifically says that you want 1 inch of headspace. And what the headspace means is the gap between the top of the food level, or the top of the food level and the top of the jar. When you are doing a raw pack, which means filling the jar with raw food, this recipe says 1 inch of headspace. So they make this little tool to measure your headspace, and the highest tooth here is 1 inch. So you just put that in the jar, and you can see on most jars the 1 inch mark is just under the lip of that ring. We've got a perfect amount of headspace, and you just keep doing that until all of your jars are filled. The next step that you would want to do is to take a clean, dry rag and wipe off the top of each of those jar rims. If your jar rim has any fish residue or chunks of fish, then the sealing agent on the inside of the ring, or on the inside of the lid, might not get a good tight seal, so your jars might not seal. So that step is really important, just to wipe the tops of all the jars and make sure that they're nice and clean. So the next step, like, all of the tops of my jars are clean, and I'm going to pull out this little tool. When I first started canning, I was like, I'm never going to use this. I really hate single-purpose tools. I despise them. I think they take up space unnecessarily. I'm more of a proponent for tools that serve many purposes, but this is a tool I have not been able to find functionality with anything else other than this. And all it is a stick of plastic with a magnet on the end. Once it's time to fish those hot lids out of your water that just stopped boiling, you are going to wish you had one of these. I tried doing it without this tool the first few times, and you can get these for, it's like $2. So $2 is definitely worth like a lifetime of not scorching your fingers in boiling water. And I'm just going to add all of the lids to these jars. And now I'm putting on the rings. We talked about headspace, which is the amount of space in between the top of your food and the bottom of the lid. And another canning term you're going to hear quite often is finger tight. And that term applies to how tight you put on the ring. When you're twisting this ring on your jar, you only want to be putting enough pressure on it so that you're just using your fingertips to tighten it. It's tight enough to serve its purpose of holding the lid onto the jar, but not so tight so that you're using all of your strength. Next step, we're finally ready to put our jars in the pressure canner. Pressure canner should have like some sort of tray like this so that your jars aren't going to be flat on the metal. And I'm just going to go one by one and stack them around the edge. All right, all my jars are packed in here. It's really tight, but there is a small amount of space in between each of the jars, which is what you want. You don't want them so tightly packed that they're all touching. Now that we've got everyone in there, this recipe says that I need a few inches of water on the bottom. This pressure canner gets insanely heavy when it's filled with water. So I usually wait until the end and then just use a separate, smaller container to pour the cold water in here. Okay, so I was hoping that this moment wouldn't come, but I've realized it has to. I'm being exposed for still being in my pajamas in the afternoon, but that's fine, because you know what? I'm pressure canning fish. I'm not gonna do my hair and do my makeup. Now you all know what I really look like. So this pressure canner is a metal on metal. Some pressure canners have a nice rubber ring, and that's what creates the seal. But this canner is straight up just aluminum on aluminum. So for this model, what you want to do to help create that seal and then to help yourself be able to get the lid off later is just take a little bit of petroleum jelly and just do a thin layer around the inside where that metal on metal seal is going to happen. You're just lubing it up a little bit. Even when I do this, I tend to still have issues getting the lid off. Like it'll create, so during the pressure canning process, it creates like such an intense vacuum that after the pressure canner has cooled down, I can't get the thing off. I can't get the lid off. If that ever happens to you and you have issues getting your lid off because it creates too efficient of a vacuum seal, I do have a solution for that. Check in the description of this video and I'll post a link to another video with my trick to how to get the lid off. We've put our petroleum jelly all around the inside, and now to put this lid on. So this pressure canner has a little indentation right here to show you what you need to line up to. Then on the lid, there's an arrow. Sometimes you need to wiggle a little for it to fall in place. There we go. So now we're in place. I've got all of these latches on the side. So you start by grabbing two opposite from each other and just go really, really loose. I mean, don't tighten at all. Let's see. You also want to make sure that the gap over here is similar to the gap over here. Otherwise, your lid is going to be off. So right now, I actually put it on pretty darn straight. No adjusting needed. So you're just going to go around the whole pressure canner, just going really, really loose. I mean, not tight at all. At this point, you're just trying to line everything up, grabbing the screws, the twists opposite from each other. And once you've got everyone on, then you can go through, start tightening a few twists at a time. And the reason you're doing that is because you don't want your lid to shift during this tightening process. You want to make sure that your pressure is being applied evenly throughout the whole lid. Otherwise, you need to start over and readjust your lid. So those are on pretty nice and tight. I've got my pressure canner weight here. And according to this recipe, it needs to be at 10 pounds of pressure. So I'm going to turn the heat on. I'm going to wait until steam starts coming up to the top. And then I'm going to put my weighted gauge on at 10 pounds. There's a better shot of the weight gauge. So you can see 10 pounds would be there. This piece is going to go right over the top of this steam hole. But first, I'm going to wait about 10-15 minutes so that some of the steam can escape. And then I'm going to put this down just like that. But for now, you want to let it heat up a little bit. This has been going on for about 10 minutes. You can hear that steam escaping from the steam vent. And I can hear that the water is starting to boil. And also, if I put my hand over this, I can feel hot steam coming out. It's ready, or it's time to put on our weighted pressure. I usually use an oven mitt for this part. So you get on your oven mitt, and you just drop it over. Now over here, you can see our pressure is at 0 right now. So I'm gonna watch this slowly creep up. And once it hits 10 pounds of pressure, everything over 10 pounds is going to be released through this vent. So you're going to hear it start to make this noise. A rattle noise as the pressure is released. This recipe says that we need to process our jars for 100 minutes. That 100-minute timer doesn't start until our pressure canner has reached 10 pounds of pressure. So right now we're still just waiting to build up to the right pressure before I can start my timer. And this is the noise and the consistency that we're looking for. So now I can start my timer for 100 minutes for processing time. My timer for 100 minutes just went off, so all I did was turn off the heat on the stove. And from here, you just let it cool naturally. It's very tempting to take the weight off because then the steam is going to release faster and the whole pressure canner is going to cool down faster. But it's actually important for the sealing of your jars to just let it come down to pressure naturally. So I waited for the dial on the pressure canner to reach 0, and then I took off the weight, and there was just a little puff of air left in it. So I took off the lid, and I'm just going to remove them one by one, and there you have it. That can will stay just fine on a shelf. No refrigeration needed. There's still some pressure change happening in the jar. So that's how you pressure can fish. And it's pretty crazy that now this is going to be shelf stable. Even though it's fish and it started with bones in it, that would have been a nuisance to pick out. Now it's totally shelf stable. It doesn't need to be refrigerated or frozen, and you'll never have to worry about picking out bones. Hey, so I know that was a long video. Thanks for sticking with me, but there are just a lot of moving pieces when it comes to making like fresh fish shelf stable. I mentioned a few things throughout the video. I mentioned where to find the recipe, and check the description below. I'll make sure to put a link to that recipe from the University of Fairbanks website, and also a trick to getting your stuck pressure canner back open after processing cans. I'll put a link to that in the description below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up so other people can help find it easier. Or if you really loved it, subscribe to me. That way you'll get a notification every time I upload something new. Thanks!